I just want to make a quick video today showing how I set up the Anderson connector when I've done a lithium and phosphate upgrade on one of these mowers. This is a good setup if you have 50 amp hour, particularly like the DCHouse or the Eco-Worthy 50 amp hour. It just kind of positions things a little bit better, and there's a little trick to it, so just gonna go through that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to disconnect the positive cable on the that's connected to the Anderson connector. And I'm also going to disconnect here where the, let me see if I can get this a little closer. I'm going to disconnect the smaller connector as well that connects it to the charge port. So that's usually wire tied. You'll want to put another wire tied back. And you put that back together. But take that apart. And then the positive is actually connected to the contactor. So then you can go over here. That's a 13 millimeter nut on there. We're going to use 13 millimeter wrench to take that nut off. Just get that. Make sure there's no power in here. Get that off there. Okay. Just be careful not to lose that. And there's two washers on top of there. You want to make sure you catch those washers. And then there's the positive. There's a small positive wire going to that, and then there's our Anderson connector. So now we've freed our Anderson connector. We've also got a couple wire ties here. We're going to cut this one. And then, now that that's free, we can bring this whole thing underneath here. Okay, so now we've got that free. Then we can put it back in through this hole. So basically it's going to go along with the positive. So you think of these as being like the feed wires for the rest of the mower, right? So go along with those. And then they come back in here. And what I've done here, so you can see there's a boss installed right here. This is an older version of the 480E. And it has the DC to DC converter. It's down here, right? On a newer version, these holes would actually be used for mounting the plate that the DC to DC converter gets installed in. But either way, on either model, whether it has that or not, you can put a screw in here. So if you have a newer version, you'll have to take the old screw out, and then you can put a new screw in that's longer. And this is 5 millimeter. This is the length is 40 millimeter. Somewhere around 35, 40 millimeter is what you want for that. And you just run it through from the other side so it sticks out. And then you take your Anderson connector and you kind of want to kind of position it like this, so that this rounded side is inside. That way that little boss will actually stick inside there and it gets it closer. So, and you want the hole that's closest to the end here, closest to where the wires are coming out. And you basically just put that over that screw, like that. So I think in this case, actually, I could definitely use a shorter screw. I may wind up having to cut this. We'll see once I have the battery in. But on the ones that have the plate, it's not going to stick out as far. So you probably are more likely you want something like 40 millimeters. And on this one, where it's, you know, where you don't have the plate, you probably want closer to 30, 35, maybe even 30. I'm not even sure. Basically, just tighten that down. You want that going down at an angle like that. Okay? And then you can reconnect your charge port. Make sure we get that. And you should put a wire tie around that. I'm going to do that a little bit later because I got to wire tie a bunch of other stuff. But basically, you have that set up, and then we've got to put our positive cable back where it was. So these wires are a little stiff because it is cold in here. So it's a little harder to do than it would have been in the summer. But, you know, sometimes you don't have time to work on it in the summer. All right. Oh, this one, actually, someone bent this one pretty good. So I'm going to straighten that out. Get that on there. All right. So now, just gonna put that back where it was. Make sure you put the bigger cable on the bottom, and then the smaller cable on top of that. And you want the flat washer, and then the locking washer, and then you want your nut on top of that. Again, that's a 13 millimeter wrench to tighten that down. All right, I don't think you guys need to, well, it's almost done. I was gonna say you guys don't need to watch me tighten this nut, but since it's almost done, we might as well get it tight so I don't forget about it later. It's always the fear. You know, you forget to tighten something, and then you have problems, and you know, you go looking, and you realize that the problem is you. I work in computers, and we call that a keychar error between keyboard and chair. All right, I think I need to get trouble getting in there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tighten that later. And I can just show you guys this last little bit. Where I put the battery in. So I've got my battery attached to the tray. Slide that in. And as you can see, this just hooks very nicely right there. It's very clean, it's out of the way. This connector is secure. It's not going to be flopping around and become disconnected. Okay. One other thing, since I'm already making a video here, this seems to be a step that gets skipped sometimes. So when you put these bolts in, there's factory washers, big fat washer. And it goes between the frame and the tray. And you can see that it's kind of loose there, right? There's no effort to move that around. So what you do is you take 5/16 washer, 5/16 or 8 millimeter. It's basically just roughly equivalent. And now you can kind of see, I don't know if you can get in there any closer. Now you can see with both of those in there, like I can't push those in by hand. Where if I have this one, there's a space there. right? I could push that around all day. So that's why I add an extra washer, and that fills in that space. Because if I forget the washer, and I've definitely seen people do this, where they put the washer here, and then it's not doing anything. Or they do put the washer in the right place, but there's all that space in there. Well, now I'm losing this thing. There's all that space in there, and then that washer, it's still going to pull down. And when you pull down on this end, then the other end's going to push up, and then you're going to get where it flops around. So in order to combat that, you just can lift that up a little bit to get them both under, and then get that through. And now, when you tighten this up, this isn't going to push down at all. And then you're not going to get any of that flapping. Anyway, I know this is a bit rough. It's been a long time since I've done one of these. So sorry about that. But I hope this was useful.